I was in seminary, I read a little book by a Roman Catholic biblical scholar, Robert McAfee Brown, who wrote a little book which really helped shape my future theological studies and my understanding of the Bible. The name of that little book was Reading the Bible Through Third World Eyes. I was thrilled when a few years ago my son Adam came home with the same book after having enrolled in the world religions class at Manatee Community College. And Brown's thesis in that little book was that one's cultural, political, and economic circumstances determines the way one reads and interprets the Bible. For instance, one who throws away so much leftover food every day reads and interprets the Bible differently than someone who doesn't know how they're going to feed their children on a particular day. Brown went further and said, as white, Western, affluent purveyors of the Bible, we should do everything we can to read the Bible from the perspective of those who have the least and suffer the most. Be an interesting experiment for you to try sometime if you read the Bible. And some of you do. Try reading it like this. Try reading the Lord's Prayer as if you didn't know where your next meal were coming from or where your next day's work was coming from. Try reading the story of the Good Samaritan as if you were a black teenager in a rusty old car, broken down in the middle of a cold night in some affluent white suburb. How would the parable of the Good Samaritan sound to you in a moment like that? Well, more than just trying to read the Bible through somebody else's eyes, we should try to see the world through other people's eyes. Now, this is very difficult for us to do because all of us see the world through a particular set of glasses or lenses, a particular perspective, and it's very difficult to get beyond that perspective. It's very difficult to take those glasses off and see the world through somebody else's eyes. And until we're able to take those glasses off and get into somebody else's skin and get their perspective, we can't see the world differently. And people can argue with us or try to use logic to convince us differently that things are really different than the way we see them, but it will never work. For instance, Rob, you know about this. I walk into the sanctuary and I say, Liz, it's dark in here. It's really dark. Why doesn't somebody turn some lights on? Open the drapes. It's unusually dark. And Liz says, no, it's not dark. It's like it always is. It's a nice, bright, sunny. No, Liz, I'm telling you, I can see it. It's dark in here. And we can argue and go back and forth all day, and she'll never convince me, because through my eyes, this room is dark. Now, when I take those off, I kind of see her perspective. I see her point. But this is a difficult thing for us to do, to get outside of our context, our setting, to see the world differently. But if we want to ever become the agents of peace and reconciliation in the world that I think we're called to be as Christians, as people of faith, then we have to be able to take those glasses off. Now, I'm going to share two stories with you this morning. The first is about a pirate. Now, I'm not talking about the swashbuckling, Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean kind of figure that we think of when we think of pirates. That's a caricature. But that's what we think of. I'm talking about this scrawny-looking teenager with a big, toothy smile. And most of you saw him or his picture on television a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but it's something like Wali Musi. He's a Somalian young man. He was captured, and 3 other of his comrades were killed as they had actually attacked the ship. They had captured the crew and the captain, Captain Richard Phillips, and actually held him. You know, the whole drama that played out, this dramatic story that played out on TV, the captain and the 4 pirates in a lifeboat with the U.S. destroyer overlooking it. And in fact, I saw Captain Phillips at a Celtics basketball game on television, and he was hailed as a hero. And rightly so. Apparently, he gave his life for his crew. He was a bona fide hero. And he was welcomed as a hero. So we have the captain as a hero and the pirate as the villain. Now, I'm not saying that what these young men were doing in any way was right or moral or justified. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. You know, I mentioned before, the one show I watched almost religiously was The Sopranos, and you know, when one of the underlings wanted to tell the boss something that was rather sensitive, and he was afraid he might get his head bashed in if he said it, he always said, "I'm just saying. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just saying. I'm just saying."